Let's think for a moment about the Naya Bharat that our Prime Minister Sri Narendra Damodar Das Modi is so very keen to sponsor, to champion, to realize. When the announcement was made that India was being piloted gradually but with sure footed steadfastness of purpose to this glorious destination of being transformed into Naya Bharat, I was excited. Unlike many others, I am not averse to embracing the new. I don't believe that great things can lie only in the past. I don't fetishize the past. I don't believe that taking leave of the past in order to improve the national predicament is a bad or a wrong thing to do. I believe that there is a lot of scope for improvement. Those who idolize the past, by the very same fact, become negative to and shut the doors against making progress towards a better future. And I sincerely believe that there is no wisdom in this. Therefore, when it was made known to all of us that the Prime Minister has a vision for building a new Bharat, Naya Bharat, I was very positive. In fact, I was expectant, hopeful, positive, keen, and I began to heed very carefully, attentively, with an open mind as to what his vision for new India would be. Even after waiting for several months, no clear pronouncement to that effect could be heard. He announced this glorious prospect but told us nothing about what it was going to be. He merely said that whatever he has done so far is a mere trailer to the main feature film that's coming, the great show that's coming. Now, while it's all right for him to take that stand, as citizens of India, we would be very keen to know where we are being led. We have a right to know. And if you're not being told explicitly what's the direction, the next best thing we can do is to look at the circumstantial details and arrive at our own informed, imaginative guess as to where we are in all likelihood being led. I undertook an exercise of that kind. In a very limited way. I'm not an economist, I'm not a planning expert. I'm only an ordinary citizen of India who loves the country and who respects its future and believes ardently that India has a destiny which is also significant for humanity as a whole. And I sincerely believe that the spiritual destiny of India must be fulfilled for the sake of humanity at large. That's a kind of enlarged significance I attach to the destiny of my country. My observation hitherto, till this moment, has made me to believe that Modi's idea of the Naya Bharat is creating infrastructure landmarks, mainly infrastructure landmarks, like the Vista project, like scores of airports and Vande Bharat train, smart cities, and also toilets for rural people, very commendable, extending electricity supply to the hinterland of India, uh, and providing gas connection to poor households, so on and so forth. But if you look at all of this, the common denominator is the hallmark of Modi's Naya Bharat is merely material and materialistic. To this day, I have not caught even a distant suggestion of the intention to improve our national character, the stock of being India, the stuff out of which India is to be made, Naya Bharat is to be made. The quality of every Indian citizen, for after all, the quality and stature of India is the sum total of the quality and stature of every Indian. So to me, it seems rather anomalous that there is the heroic intention to build and unveil a Naya Bharat, a new India, but there is no consideration whatsoever, even in the distant horizon, of the duty to nurture a new Indian character, a new Indian spirit, leave alone new, a noble Indian character, a noble Indian culture, a noble Indian spirit. As a teacher, I'm concerned about this because no matter what the suggestions that I receive from all around me all the time is, and no matter how I try to persuade myself, I cannot believe that a new Bharat can be created without refashioning the old Indian outlook. An outlook is not a matter of infrastructure. Outlook is a matter of the human wealth that we have, the human dimension. A building has no outlook. Only people have outlook. So, building or trying to build the Naya Bharat with the old outlook is like pouring new wine into old wineskins, which is logically untenable and it cannot take us anywhere. Now, in order to make this concern clearer, let me make a couple of references. Because as you know, when I say something, there is a background to what I say. This idea of wanting to improve one's nation and to take the people and the country forward to unprecedented heights is nothing new. Modi is not the first person to have experienced this noble impulse. The impulse is noble, I give full credit to him. And in fact, I also give credit to him on the fact that he has this imperious sense of national mission, and that is building the Naya Bharat. But he is wrong, historically inaccurate to say or believe or even suggest that he is the only person to have had the sense of mission. Certainly, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru had it to an extraordinary degree, and he went about that task with religious devotion, which is undeniable. Whether you agree with his vision for the development of India or not is a different issue. But you cannot dispute if the man had a heroic sense of mission about building a new India. He is, in my mind, the foremost nation builder. If Gandhi is the foremost liberator of India, Nehru was, and up to this moment certainly is the foremost nation builder. And it doesn't do credit to our Prime Minister's stature, Modi ji's stature, to belittle his predecessors. Because belittling his predecessors in this august office is like ridiculing your own ancestors. If my grandfather and his father and his grandfather were all idiots, then in all likelihood, I'll also prove myself an idiot, if not today, tomorrow, or the day after. That's the logic of history. So every prime minister was earnest about discharging his or her duties. They all did their best. Whether their best was good enough is a different issue. But you cannot, no one can dispute the sincerity of purpose and the heroic commitment with which they went about their job. They were sincere to the task of nation building to the extent that their abilities and the circumstances in which they functioned enabled them to do so. So I certainly don't agree with the Prime Minister's off the cuff readiness to discredit and belittle all that his predecessors did. The history of India does not begin, cannot begin, will not begin with 2014, May 2014. It began a long time ago. It did not even begin at the stroke of the midnight hour of 14 August 1947. It began thousands of years ago, and all that those ancient, distant people did according to their abilities, their understanding, in order to create the Indian mind, the Indian soul, the Indian culture, the Indian way of life, they all are relevant. And we are standing on the grounds that they have created, and we are still enjoying the fruits of their labor. And we have to be grateful, profoundly grateful to all those who have labored in the past and into whose fruits of the labor of love we have entered. And we must do so, we must enter into the fruits of their labor with hearts of gratitude. Anything less than that reflects poorly on us. All right, now, as I said, others have, not only in India, but all over the world and all through the ages, dreamt of taking their country forward to a better and nobler state. Let me give you an illustration. One of the best books you can read on what a society should be like, what a country should be like, what a people should be like, is Aristotle's twin volumes, Ethics and Politics. Aristotle wanted to write only one book, but in the process of writing, his material got so amplified that he realized that he had to turn them into two books. Now, what is Aristotle trying to do? Like Plato, who dreamt of the ideal republic, I'm not taking the case of Plato because Plato is far better known in this respect among Indians, not so much in the West, than Aristotle. More people know Plato's Republic than Aristotle's Ethics and Politics. That's the reason why I'm picking Aristotle. Now, if you look at the substance of these two books, Ethics and Politics, Aristotle's concern is how to improve the present situation. So he says that the key to improving life is improving the individual. How can we create a good society, a good country? The key is create the good individual. And then he goes on to do all kinds of reflections as to what constitutes this good human being. That's the ethical part, ethics. Only if there is a good human being, good individual, or set of good individuals, can you actually think of creating a good society. Also, at the same time, to look at it in the reverse order, a good society cannot come, a good human being cannot function unless there is a good society. So these are mutually implying necessary components in creating a nobler society and a nobler people. A nobler society for a nobler people. You can't create a nobler society for mean-minded people. Nor can you create a good country by improving infrastructure, though infrastructure must improve, and there is a lot of margin for improvement as far as infrastructure is concerned in the Indian context. You and I readily agree. But infrastructure is not the whole of life. It's only an aspect of the means or the accoutrements of life. So I'm concerned that there's hardly any talk, any concern, any awareness that the stock of the Indian people must be improved. On the other hand, and I'll mention that and I'll say a few things about that and I'll stop. On the other hand, whatever is happening today, whether it's done deliberately or otherwise, what's called collateral damage, is in the direction of degrading the people of India. For example, let's look at the public political discourse. Each party seems to be specialized in finding fault with all other parties. So when the Congress looks at the BJP and all other parties, there is nothing good in any one of them. So if BJP looks at the Congress and all of the opposition parties, they are national pestilences. Ask the communists, everyone except them is bad. Ask Trinamool Congress, ask RJD, ask DMK, ask Biju Janata Dal, ask any political party. Any party other than themselves is made up of very inferior stuff of humanity. Now the net result is that in the eyes of a dispassionate third-party observer, all parties are full of the riffraff. Because if I go by the opinion of this party, all other parties are bad. And therefore, if you do the whole round, every party is absolutely wicked, rotten, comprising entirely riffraff. Now tell me, when a young person looks at this scenario and finds that only this rotten stuff is showcased, wouldn't he get the feeling that Indians as a whole are wicked, crooked, mean-minded, shallow, despicable, and there isn't a touch of what is good and beautiful about us Indians? If a young person who is exposed to this kind of political rhetoric which goes on all the time comes to a conclusion that we are a despicable people and therefore why should I bother about being good? If I'm in a moral jungle, why shouldn't I be a wild beast? Now, when you create this kind of public discourse and daub the whole country with moral dirt, and I'm going to use a bad word, moral shit, how can you blame the individuals who are tempted to indulge in antisocial activities, immoral activities, criminal deeds, because simple common sense should tell us, if at all we understand human psychology, that there is an anti-law element, rebellious element, criminal instinct in human nature. There is a secret admiration for criminals in human nature. That is why more people with criminal records get elected to the legislature and the Indian Parliament, state legislatures and the Indian Parliament, proportionately than would be acceptable in the wider society. If in the wider society 0.01% of the people are have criminal activities or indulge in criminal activities, among our members of parliament and MLAs, at least 30 to 35% of the elected representative leaders would have criminal background. What does it mean? It means, after all, they are elected freely by the people. They are elected because those who elect them, those who cast their vote for them, they have a secret admiration for the criminal ingredient in their profile of leadership. It's a recognized psychological reality. It's not something that I have invented. So, every human being has this element in his or her nature. Then, what is it that enables a person to control the criminal element and not allow it free play? It is the realization that we are living in a society which is noble, which is law abiding, and where I should be in a better state than I am within myself. So, social pressures should bring out the better element in us than the worst elements in us. So, it is necessary, therefore, to create a more positive and a nobler image of ourselves than is being done at the present time. So, what we are doing, therefore, is on the one hand, we are encouraging directly, indirectly, knowingly, unknowingly, all these negative, low spirited, low minded instincts, tastes, outlooks, etc. And on the other hand, we also sit and lament over its disastrous consequences like increasing crime graph, increasing intolerance, increasing atrocities on women, increasing levels of domestic violence, decreasing commitment to work culture, and the laws of social cohesion, increasing social disharmony, and above all, the dwindling of the human stature. Not realizing that all these things that we lament are the inevitable consequences of all that we are doing. And this must be recognized not merely to be critical or embarrassed about ourselves, but to realize that we can do better than we are doing at the present time. And that there is no gain, there is no merit in this kind of activity. Rather than become experts in finding fault with each other, and rather than become more and more voluble and articulate in denouncing, in criticizing, in vilifying each other, we should have the courage to recognize what is good and beautiful in our midst and try to accentuate it. When I talk like this, many people think that, oh, this chap is, so old-fashioned, he does not know in which world he is living. No matter in which world I am living, I will never become cynical of human nature. I'm realistic, but at the same time, I'm optimistic. Realism, my sense of realism tells me that there is this element of depravity in human nature. That's why I say that there is this proclivity to criminality in human nature. But I'll never become cynical, hold on to my optimism because I believe that human nature can improve. But in order to improve human nature, we must create a collective ambience which would stimulate and empower, call out and accentuate or affirm what is good rather than bad, what is noble rather than mean-minded in human nature. In Indian thought, human nature is considered a battleground between the Alpatman and Mahatman. Alpatman is the low human being, low human nature. Human nature that operates in terms of its low instincts, selfishness, crudity, violence, intolerance, destruction, deeds of darkness, etc. But that's not the whole of our human nature. There's also the Mahatman in us, the noble element. So, the function of anybody who loves the country, the function of good governance, the goal of good education, the goal of sound religion, and the function of a healthy culture is to call up, awaken, stimulate the Mahatman, the elements of the Mahatman in every citizen, so that the collective effect of all of that would be a very perceptible improvement of the national character. I believe that is doable, though I regret to say I see no attempts being made in that direction. On the other hand, alarming attempts are being made in the opposite direction to degrade our national culture, national character all the more, to validate and valorize whatever is low and despicable, to attach some kind of unprecedented value to the destructive, to the cruel, to the cheap, to the vulgar. Look at the language people use in public. Even people who hold exalted offices Look at the sentiments that are being spewed out. It pollutes the air. It can only pollute the mind of the young people. It can only desecrate our own inner life. What is the gain in all of this? So, I believe that there is a tremendous task to be undertaken. And without minding this task, the adventure of building and unveiling a Naya Bharat will be like the Babel Tower. In the Bible, there is a story of a people who lived in the valley of Shinar, who, because they became prosperous and technologically advanced, wanted to showcase their ability by building a heaven-kissing tower, tall tower, like the Burj Khalifa tower in UAE. What happened? They had all the expertise, they had the material resources, they had the engineering skill, architectural skills, everything, but they did not have one thing. That is, they did not have the human quality, which alone acts as a cementing factor among all the various components. Therefore, this project, which was meant to keep the people unified, had exactly its opposite effect. And the people who wanted to be united through the construction of this heaven-kissing tower got confused and scattered, dispersed over the face of the earth. That's the story of it's an event of profound symbolic resonance. And this is a symbol that's universal. It can happen in any culture, any age, any society, in any political entity. For example, the BJP, if it's not careful, if it does not heed the wisdom of what I'm saying, will soon become a Tower of Babel. It will collapse into a heap of confusion. The higher it goes, the greater will be its collapse, and a confused collapse into a heap of incompetence, incoherence, because the human quality is neglected. Material acquisitions, material dimensions are ballooned up, emphasized. The entire obsession with material acquisitions, material power, material wealth, material size and scope. But the human quality is evaporating, dwindling, like a balloon that has been pricked, becoming nothing. The whole thing will collapse. Collapse happens when there's an imbalance between the material and the human. The material and the human. The material dimension can be enlivened, sustained, and kept intact only by the greatness of the human. This is true whether it is a home, whether it is an institution, whether it is a church, or a society, or a political party, or a nation. This principle holds good everywhere. There must be an equivalence, an equilibrium, or a balance between the material dimension and the human dimension. When the material dimension goes up and the human dimension comes down, the result is disequilibrium. The outcome of disequilibrium is complete collapse. That collapse, that downfall is inevitable. That's how 23 major civilizations of the world came and went. Something studied so admirably by Arnold Toynbee in his magnum opus, which it took 25 years to write, a study of history, the study of the rise and fall of civilizations. And Edward Gibbons does this in relation to the Roman culture. So he writes this wonderful book in 2 volumes, The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. How did the great Roman Empire decline and disappear? Precisely the same thing. The human quality, the human dimension got emaciated. The same thing can happen to India. I repeat, this should not happen to India. It's up to us to ensure that it does not. So to do so, we have to rise above party loyalties and stand on the foundation of certain enduring principles, time-tested enduring principles without which the cohesion of no society can be ensured. India must be great. It's not like what the Americans are saying under Trump. America must be made great again. The MAGA movement. Make America great again. How will you make America great again? Ask the Americans under Trump. Through violence, through rebellion against the rule of law of land, through deception, through resistance to due processes. Is that the way to make America great again? The same kind of infection seems to be spreading in the vitals of our country as well. We as citizens who love the country, we have to be vigilant against it, even if it would make us unpopular and we would be targeted for doing so. It's a bottom line national duty that we owe. Our country deserves it. India can be great. India needs to be great. And as I said a short while ago, not for her own sake alone, but also for the sake of humanity at large. Let me state my fundamental creed. The destiny of India must be fulfilled, not only for the sake of India, but for the sake of humanity at large. After all, our vision was Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The whole of the cosmos is one family. What a splendid, what a glorious vision it was. But we have fallen so far away from it. Never mind. Let's get up from where we have fallen. Walk towards that great destination. This is the message that the global scenario needs today. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. I believe in it. Don't you believe in it? If you do, let's join hands together. Stand up for it. As of now, I have to tell you, my sense of patriotism makes me dissociate myself with every divisive religious agenda. The people of India cannot be parceled off, fragmented, divided on the basis of religion, communalism, caste, gender, etc. We need to be one people, as Abraham Lincoln said in his famous Gettysburg speech. A house divided against itself cannot stand. United we stand, divided we fall. Let nothing divide India. At the very least, let nothing divide us. Let's rise above all these petty politics and believe in the greatness of India. And let us be a new humanity for the building of a new India, a Naya Bharat. Mera Bharat Mahan. It always was, always will be. Mera Bharat Mahan. Jai Hind.